M-Pesa, Madam Speaker. Yesterday, Madam Speaker, we stood and said that the Kenyans have sent us, Madam Speaker, and all of these were dropped, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this finance bill, Madam Speaker, is targeting to improve the economy of this country, Madam Speaker, whereby the contribution which will be made or the taxes which will be collected through this finance bill, Madam Speaker, will help to improve the infrastructure of this country, Madam Speaker. I am a happy member of Parliament, Madam Speaker, because my constituency, Mr. Speaker, will benefit with 50 million, Madam Speaker, to electrify, Madam Speaker, my villages within this constituency of Igembe South, Madam Speaker. Number two, Madam Speaker, my NGCDF, Madam Speaker, is going to be earned with 10 billion, Madam Speaker, whereby at least I will receive more than 30 million, Madam Speaker, on top of what I normally receive annually, Madam Speaker. These funds also will help me, Madam Speaker, to do more work for my people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am a happy person since most of my farmers, Madam Speaker, they normally farm, but their produce, Madam Speaker, does not reach the market, Madam Speaker. This is because most of the people have invested in importing things from outside, Madam Speaker. But through the imposition of tax from those imported goods, Madam Speaker, this will see that the farmers, Madam Speaker, who normally farm canola and sunflower, Madam Speaker, will have a better market within the country, Madam Speaker, since the cooking or the honeydew oil, Madam Speaker, from within will be used to improve our industries, Madam Speaker. Also, Madam Speaker, on the poultry farming, Madam Speaker, my farmers, because most of them, Madam Speaker, normally farm poultry, Madam Speaker, the imposition of tax on the imported eggs, Madam Speaker, will see them access the market well, since the internally produced eggs, Madam Speaker, will be readily available in the market, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also, I am a happy person since when during the weekend, Madam Speaker, most of my people sent me to reject, Madam Speaker, the imposition of the tax on the brand, Madam Speaker. And I would like to inform them that, Madam Speaker, this tax is not there, Madam Speaker. With all those, Madam Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Bamachoge Borobu, Honorable Obadia Birongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for affording me the opportunity to address this House. I was going to address the issue of the proposal by the government to increase the RML from 18 to 25, but thankfully the chairperson for the Committee for Finance and National Planning actually said that there is no such thing in the bill. Because of that, I am going to switch my attention to the events of yesterday. Madam Speaker, yesterday our adoring Generation Z woke the government from deep slumber. Our very audacious Generation Z decided that they are going to make their voices heard. Madam Speaker, I thought of words to be able to salute them on X, but my words failed me. Madam Speaker, I was wondering, since I didn't do them justice on X yesterday, and this is the point at which I want to ask for the attention of every member here, because this generation is our future. And as I thought about what we usually do when the visitors of our speaker seated in the speaker's gallery accorded, I cannot help to note that the speaker actually beams with happiness whenever we acknowledge her visitors in the speaker's gallery. It is in the same vein. It is in the same vein that I wanted all of us, in saluting what Action Gen Z did yesterday, and noting the Madam Speaker, that Gen Z actually represent the best of our country, and that yesterday they were only exercising what is very clearly in our Constitution, Article 1.
Yes, you may proceed, because I hear it's your maiden speech. So.
Now, thank you so much. And so in honor of Gen Z action yesterday, I wanted to ask all of us to stamp our feet in recognition of what they did yesterday, because it was all constitutional. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Githunguri.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give my contribution on the finance bill proposal, which has been tabled in this House. Madam Speaker, for a long time, finance bill has not been a subject of discussion in this country. But for the last 1.5 years, Kenyans have awakened to the issues that are there in finance bill and have made it a public discussion. Madam Speaker, I had attempted to speak earlier on in the floor because I am a user of sanitary towels. And as a user, as a mother, as a woman leader, I am greatly concerned that the price of sanitary towels and diapers is not only going to affect the mothers and the users of those items, but is going to affect the budget of individual homes. I have interrogated the proposal of the finance bill very deeply, Madam Speaker, and I've realized that there are promises flying around. The excise duty that was proposed on sanitary towels and diapers has been removed. Or rather, there is a recommendation from the Committee of Finance to remove excise duty on imported sanitary towels and diapers. However, Madam Speaker, the raw materials that are being used by local manufacturers are subjected to VAT. And if those raw materials are going to continue being subjected to VAT, the manufacturers will have no choice but to pass the cost of that VAT to the users. And therefore, Madam Speaker, if we do not remove VAT on raw materials that are making sanitary towels in Kenya for local manufacturers, we are still going to have expensive sanitary towels and diapers. Madam Speaker, currently there are children who do not go to school when they are on menses because they cannot afford sanitary towels. If we add extra price on cost of sanitary towels, we are going to deter lives of many girls who can become powerful women in this country. Madam Speaker, in the spirit of making laws, we cannot make laws to obscure other laws. I have gone through the finance bill proposal and have noted that there are various proposals that have been put in the finance proposal that are going to deter us from implementing the laws we have made previously in this House. Madam Speaker, in the respect of that, I note that we have agreed a proposal to amend the Data Protection Act. Data Protection Act of 2019 is a law that we made in the previous parliament to protect our personal data. I know members of this House, I included, have received numerous messages from members of public. Where they got our numbers from, I don't know. Whereas we cannot blame them because maybe they are operating from a situation of pressure. It is against the law to share members' numbers. As they do that, Madam Speaker, we are protected by the law. What about if we allow us to amend that law and allow anybody to access our personal data, including financial data? And therefore, Madam Speaker, I am of the opinion that we must be very careful so that you don't make laws that are going to make other laws not operational. Madam Speaker, I represent farmers. And I would have been very excited to hear that just like we have given VAT exemption to the transportation of sugarcane, which I am happy about, we also provide the same provision for the farmers who transport milk, who transport avocados, who transport macadamia, tea leaves, and coffee. Madam Speaker, I understand that we want to make sure that we lower the cost of operation for sugar millers so that they can lower the cost of final product to us, which is sugar that we consume in our tea. But we also consume milk, and we also want to lower the cost of production of milk so that we can have affordable a cup of tea. And therefore, I would request this House to consider to also provide and extend the same treatment to my farmers in Githunguri. With those very many remarks that I have made and I have observed, I am still not convinced that I should support.
The Honorable Member for Homa Bay. The Honorable Member for Homa Bay.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also debate and make contributions on this finance bill. Madam Speaker, I rise to, from the beginning, I say that I reject this finance bill. Madam Speaker, the reason as to why I'm saying I'm rejecting the finance bill, not just rejecting partially, but in totality. Because, Madam Speaker, this is a finance bill that from the onset, there is always increased taxation, item by item, detail by detail, up to the end. I want to say, Madam Speaker, because I recognize that we were advised by the Honorable Speaker Wetangula that we can present our contributions based on linkages, based on our opinions, based on the budget, and based on the finance bill that is current on the table. Madam Speaker, I want to say that as Kenyans, first and foremost, we were disappointed with the presentation that was given by the PS Treasury. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Kenyans keenly listened to how revenue was going to be generated to fix what is proposed in the budget. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Kenyans were left shocked because what was proposed, one of the things was we raised revenue because we want to sort out our pending bills. Madam Speaker, it is on the floor of this House that we were told that we have to wait for consolidation of the pending bills in this country by October. For that reason, Madam Speaker, I reject even the reason as to why we are increasing the taxes so that we can foot our pending bills. Madam Speaker, I want to say that this House, the leaders must rise up and support. And I want to ride on the presentation by MP Honorable Sylvia, who said that personally she does not understand what a finance bill is. I want to say that even yesterday we know that our colleagues were invited at State House. I thought they were going to make meaningful contributions, Madam Speaker, and give contribution as to why they think they are under siege in the respective constituencies where they come from. Madam Speaker, I want to register in this House that we share as colleagues, but the kind of issues that we are saying that we are relying, there's me of this other side of the opposition, is relying on social media. Why did they choose to act Madam Speaker, on the social media by telling us along the corridors that all the things you were arguing about, we have dropped. Madam Speaker, that was bread issue. Madam Speaker, the taxation of the motorcycle, which means they are also conflicting and contradicting what they are saying, Madam Speaker. Why did they also choose to act on the issues of social media? Why did they choose to respond to the fourth estate? Madam Speaker, I want to say that public participation needs to be redefined in this House. Yesterday, when we watched over the television, Madam Speaker, I saw a desperate minority whip. That is, I saw a desperate Honorable Whip Osoro, when he was very desperate of trying to convince Kenyans and deeply thinking on how taxation on bread has been dropped, on how taxation of motorcycles have been dropped. I saw a desperate and so much a person who is under pressure. Madam Speaker, I want to say that we must stand firm on the floor of this House and rise beyond numbers. Issues of numbers does not arise when we are talking about finance bill. Madam Speaker, I want to say that finance bill 2023 can equally be applicable on this budget that we want to appropriate. Madam Speaker, I want to say that there must be progression on how we generate our taxes. Madam Speaker, private sectors, I wish you gave me 1 more minute, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have valid points. Kindly, I'm requesting for 1 minute, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much. Being a woman speaker, you know very well the problems we have. I've transversed in these industries. Private sectors are key. If they migrate from this country, we must take care of their interests. When we talk about zero rating, we go to standard rating. We are talking of exempt. The final sufferers are consumers. President Yoweri Museveni said that Kenyans must learn to produce and manufacture their raw materials. Where is this in finance bill?
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to make a few observations. Madam Speaker, the anchor document that the finance bill draws its contents and which we passed in this House is known as budget strategy paper, medium-term budget strategy paper. Madam Speaker, that document, if you look at it, it is anchored on two important principles. The first principle is that the budget document needs to be predictable. The budget document needs to be predictable. The finance bill needs to be predictable. It also needs to be certain. The reason why this is anchored in this document is because, Madam Speaker, investors and businessmen, when they want to do business in a country, they must be certain that the tax laws that will prevail are long-term and that they are able to allow them to plan their businesses. Madam Speaker, before I joined Parliament, I used to work in the banking sector. And Madam Speaker, we could engage business people and we help them to draw strategies for business. One of the things that we look for when we are doing this, Madam Speaker, is that how will the tax environment obtain in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Madam Speaker, if you look at this tax bill, if you look at this finance bill, Madam Speaker, we just did finance bill last year. And even before the businesses take advantage of the finance bill which we enacted, the incentives which we provided, shortly we have a new finance bill which is overturning those benefits. Madam Speaker, this is the reason why, Madam Speaker, I want to oppose this finance bill, because it is taking away the benefits that we gave to businessmen just the other day and taking them away. Madam Speaker, for instance, a tax like import declaration fee. In the last finance bill, we had lowered this tax because we realized that there are so many raw materials which our companies need, our industries need, which we must import. Now, in this finance bill, that tax has been raised by 1%. Honorable Speaker, This is going to hurt the manufacturing sector. I have heard many members claim that this finance bill is good for manufacturing sector. It is not, because the raw materials which we are going to rely on to produce, and this country does not produce a lot of raw materials, we are going to import them at a high fee. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, there are some taxes that have been introduced, such as VAT on financial services. Honorable Speaker, only 14% of Kenyans are enjoying banking services. In most African countries and developed countries, you find that about 50% of citizens are enjoying banking services. Now, if we introduce 16% VAT on financial services, Honorable Speaker, you are telling many Kenyans not to enjoy banking services. This is going to be a serious drawback in our campaign to have many Kenyans get banked. But Honorable Speaker, this also applies to the new tax which we are introducing on mobile money transfer. Honorable Speaker, there's a tendency for this House to continue to tax money transfer services. Last year, the excise tax on money transfer services was 15%. We are trying to raise it to 20%. Honorable Speaker, we need to realize that just sending money is not really production. So if we continue to tax people because they are using money, mobile transfer services, it is very unfair. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, one of the reasons why we do not meet our tax targets is because of something we call taxpayer morale. Honorable Speaker, the reason why somebody will willingly pay tax is because if their morale is boosted. This bill does not boost taxpayer morale. And I foresee a situation where taxpayers will refuse to pay their taxes. And this is happening, Honorable Speaker. If you go to KRA, the officers in KRA are merely collecting bribes because taxpayers are refusing to pay tax. They rather keep the tax, and when officers of KRA go, they bribe them. So, Honorable Speaker, we need to have a tax regime that promotes taxpayers to have morale so that they can willingly pay tax. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Atandi. Mary Mase. Honorable members, if you have spoken, please log out. Oundo, you have spoken, you are still on the screen. Otienda Mola has spoken, is still on the screen. You block other members from appearing on the screen. You've logged out now, thank you. Mary Mase.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I've been queuing since morning. I thought you had forgotten that I'm here. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to appreciate the chairman of the Finance Committee, Kimani Kuria, and his entire team for a meticulous job. The manner in which you have handled the making of the finance bill is indeed commendable. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, Article 221 of the Constitution and Section 39(2) of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 4 and 2, and the Standing Order 235, subsection 5, provided for the execution of the estimates of revenue and expenditure, and underline revenue. Honorable Speaker, this process is not complete until the passage of the appropriations bill. And the passage of the appropriations bill is not possible without the execution of the finance bill. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it's against that backdrop that we are discussing the finance bill, which speaks to the revenue-raising measures, without which we shall have no budget. What we adopted are just estimates. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to commend the Finance Committee because they followed the due process. Once the proposals on the finance bill were submitted to this House and committed to the Finance Committee, they had to subject the finance bill proposal from National Treasury to public participation. And therefore, to hear colleagues allege that why has government now decided to bring amendments this late, or to demystify the notion that The Finance Committee were pressurized. Honorable Speaker, the Finance Committee had to listen to Kenyans, get the views of the Kenyans before recommending amendments to the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, we are here as representatives of the people. We are the watchdog. We are the ones to oversight the executive. That is why when the executive proposes anything, it cannot just be passed. There is a committee that does the scrutiny, the review, they have to discuss, they have to do public participation, then make recommendations to amend and bring to this house for all of us to adopt. They do that on our behalf. So, Honorable Speaker, I know it's been a difficult time, not just for Kuria and his team, but the entire house. We have received threats, blackmail, attacks on social media. Reject the bill. Reject the bill. And I want to ask one question here, Honorable Speaker. Allow me use an analogy of a bag of banana or a bag of potatoes. If you have a bag of potatoes and there are 10 or 15 rotten potatoes in that bag, are you going to throw away the whole bag of potatoes because of the 15 rotten ones? Or you are going to remove the 15 rotten ones and throw them away and carry the rest of the bag to the kitchen and prepare a delicious meal? Honorable Speaker, I am here to represent the people of Teso South. They have given me the mandate to represent them. They have needs. So I will support the bill as amended. The committee has removed 2.5 tax on motor vehicles. The committee has removed 16% on edible oil. The committee has removed some of the most contentious proposals that Kenyans did not agree with. They are proposing to remove, and we will be passing them during the time.
Hold on, Emase. Irene Mayaka, what is the problem?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is something that I've just noted from my senior, who I respect a lot, and other members. We are not talking about the bill as amended. The bill has not yet been amended. It is the report that is introducing amendments to the bill. So we need to be very clear on that particular fact so that we do not mislead Kenyans.
She's actually not out of order because I heard her say the committee has proposed.
But
what did she say? No, no order.
Yeah.
If that's what you said, Mary, you're out of order. No bill has been amended, but there's a proposal from the committee to amend the bill. So you have two documents. The bill as is, the committee report with various proposals, including those amendments. So if you want to talk about changes in the bill, talk of proposals, because we have no amendments yet.
Honorable Speaker, I mean proposed amendments that the committee has recommended as per this report. And Honorable Speaker, allow me point one. Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that the committee has made proposed amendments to the finance bill. The way it was originally, I want to agree with Kenyans, there were proposals that were contagious that we must deal away with. So I will support with the proposed amendments, and in particular, I want to respond to one proposed a VAT on financial services, on internet, which was going to affect especially the Gen Zs that you're talking about, the hustlers who are the students in universities. The proposal to remove that, to delete that proposed tax is indeed commendable.
Dr. James Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate.
Danguna, what is the problem?
Mr. Speaker.
CNN, what is the problem? Hold on, Nyikal. Yes, CNN.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes.
I've been here since 9:30. And from the screen, it is clear I'm the one who is supposed to speak after Mary Massey. But anyway, let me be
Take your
patient.
seat.
I hope I'll be the next.
Take your seat. The discretion remains the chair, but let me also tell you, if there's a member who sits here longer than any other, it's Dr. Nyikal.
BBC will.
He sits here from the beginning. The speaker finds him here. The speaker leaves him here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose the Finance Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, this has been the most canvassed bill since I came to this parliament. It has been canvassed, and the committee has met with professional organizations, it has met with churches, it has met with civil society, it has met with students, and all of them are unanimous that they don't like the bill as it is, and I propose that we reject the bill. And Mr. Speaker, you have seen even yesterday, in just anticipation that the bill will be discussed, the demonstration, the picketing that was in this town. And Mr. Speaker, this time the people who are picketing, if you looked at them, are very well-educated people. If you listen to what they're saying, people may be thinking that they were mobilized through social media and so on. But those people have read this bill, and they know what is the bill. I dare say some of them may have read this bill better than us. And Mr. Speaker, the reason people are up against, the people of Kenya are up against this bill is we had a bill last year which actually people are suffering from. Now we bring another finance bill. They are still suffering, and they have looked through this one and they do not see hope. We represent the people of this country. And why is it that they're reacting like that? Mr. Speaker, if you look at this bill and the clauses that they didn't like, I'll come to the report later. Look at the motor vehicle levy or tax. It is illegal. They know it. An asset is not an income. It is there. And when you do that, all people suffer, not just the people who own vehicles, because it will include transport vehicles. If you look at tax on digital market, and that I think is why the young people are out. They have no jobs. These are educated people, and they're using the digital marketplace to actually earn a living. TikTok, content creation, and so on. We have even ourselves put hubs in our constituencies, and the Ministry of ICT is putting hubs and encouraging these young people to actually use them. We are now levying tax on that, and we do not have jobs for them. If you look at the VAT on bread, it's never been heard of. We're bringing it in. Who are we affecting? The ordinary person. Bread is a staple food. Mr. Speaker, if you look at VAT on vegetable oil, when started some months back, we had a big problem with the price of oil. Again, we are now putting tax back. When the prices are just starting to come down, we are putting it. If you put money on mobile phones, everybody uses a mobile phone, even children who are going to school. Mr. Speaker. So people feel that the government as we have now is against the people. And that is why we are having this problem. Look at the eco levy in clause 45 and 48. What is it touching? Diapers, pads, tires, of motor vehicles, bicycles, motorbikes, and so on. Again, touching the ordinary people. I know that the 150 that we put now, we are saying it is basically just going to be on imported products where it is used. So people have rioted because they don't like this thing. If you look at the fuel levy, which was not even in there, but now it has been brought in, we are proposing about 7 shillings on top of what is happening now. You do that, everybody is actually touched. The housing levy, we amend the bill that was actually assuring the people who have contributed the money to actually make it open to everybody. The people feel, we don't like this levy, we thought we'd get the houses, now everybody.
Jos Lelemengit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to be in agreement and also join hands with the other colleagues in supporting this bill. This bill has a big win for Kenyans. Generally, it seeks additional revenue that is necessary to alleviate poverty and to deliver public services like roads, electricity, on health. These are all services to improve on and better lives of people, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to increase the disposable incomes for millions of Kenyans that are employed. And I want to say this, Mr. Speaker. This bill, the deductions of NHIF on housing levy are done on gross salaries, and note the pay is done after the deductions on NHIF and also the deductions on house levy. For example, your Honorable Speaker, I've done calculations. Any salaried Kenyan earning 50,000 shillings. Right now, his net pay is around 49,000 shillings. But with this new finance bill, Mr. Speaker, the same Kenyan who is earning a gross salary of 50,000 shillings is going home with around 42,000 shillings. So there is an additional almost 3,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker. And this is for all the salaried employees in Kenya. So I want to be in agreement with the chair and the team who came up with this proposal of the finance bill, that this finance bill is putting more money in the pockets of employed Kenyans. That is about 13 million Kenyans who are employed both in government and the private sector, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want in the common principles of commerce, high school commerce, and I want to mention this for Honorable Babu, Owino, and Selassie and Honorable Junet, because they think alike and opposing this bill. It dictates that you have to put tax levies on importation so that we can give room to the local industries to spur in those economic growth.
Yes, Honorable Selassie, what's the problem?
Yes, sir.
Take your seat. Give Selassie the mic. There you are, give him the mic.
Okay, I'm here, right? I've never stood on the point of order, but let me try to speak on point of order. That one is point of order number 91. Okay. I'm so much disappointed with Honorable Elmengit by saying that
Order standing order 31 deals with adjournment of the House.
91, yes.
So it can't be the one on which you are standing.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on point of order.
Yes.
Order number 91, yes. I'm getting used to these things, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes.
So I'm so much surprised that out of all these members of parliament, that Engineer Elmengit is mentioning my name and asking me that I'm opposing the bill without even me listening to me giving facts the way I want to give my facts in the next 5 minutes to come. Immediately the speaker is going to mention my name. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Lelmengi, to be fair to Selassie, he has not spoken on this
Thank you,
yet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I was waking up Selassie. I saw him, he was asleep. Okay. And again, Mr. Speaker, I've seen several members opposing this bill, and particularly on the assembled motorcycles that are imported. Those are the motorcycles that 3% of the levies have been put on the imported motorcycles. But the locally assembled and locally manufactured, there's no tax levies on those motorcycles. This will spur the economic growth and also enable these companies, will give these companies to employ more youth in assembling these motorcycles within this country. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would love to buy diapers for my babies from the locally produced ones in Kenya. There is no problem for Honorable Junet creating a company like Junet Diapers Company Limited. I would be happy to buy those diapers from his factory. So I want to encourage every member who is opposing this bill I want to urge all members opposing this bill to also join hands with us so that we can accept the amendments and the proposed bill that we have for 2024-2025 financial year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the only problem that we are fighting in this country and in this finance bill is the negative connotations and statements propagated by the opposition. Numbers don't lie. For the last 1 year, Mr. Speaker, on the economy, inflation has dropped from 9% to around 5%. The dollar, Mr. Speaker, in relation to Kenyan shilling, has dropped from 165 shilling to 130, up thereabout. Farmers are happy, Mr. Speaker, for the subsidized fertilizer. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the teachers who are interns for the last 1.5 years will get a chance to be employed permanent and pensionable, which is a big win for our institutions back home, the high schools, the day schools that don't have teachers. So, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, what's your point of order? There's nobody on the floor. Umulher? Give her the mic. What's the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to interject him, but he's not on the floor.
He's not on the floor, so it is spent. Thank you.
Okay.
I give the floor to Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to oppose this Finance Act of 2024 with reasons, Mr. Speaker. And I'll start, Mr. Speaker. When government came into place, Mr. Speaker, we started by removing subsidies and saying that this will assist Kenyans now to move on as a country. Mr. Speaker, we came in, we decided to ensure that the first finance bill, we had so many issues. We thought this second finance bill, Mr. Speaker, will be a finance bill that brings Kenyans together. And today, what the government has done to us, the Economic Council decided to put Kenya again into crossroads to make us fight for nothing. And then after that, then you come and now start saying we shall be having amendments. Yet this is something we would have just thought from the beginning, Mr. Speaker, that we don't need a country to go on to a cry and then now come again and tell them that there is an incentive that now we are giving. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the report comes in, and this is an IMF finance bill. This is what they did to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, you remember very well when Kibaki came into government, he was a finance minister, but he decided to be a liberal economist. He decided to look east. It is so sad that while my president thinks he will build any road in this country, that he will do any infrastructure in this country with IMF on his neck, this will not happen on this term. Not on this term. He will be there to do the deficits of what they are telling him, but in terms of building Kenya, we shall see the worst that we have never seen. Mr. Speaker, the bill then comes in and tells us you want to restore policy on debt, sustainability, whatever. But then you forget that you are the same person who is saying you need everything on items. Fine, you have said you have reduced it for Mama Mboga, I don't know for who. But you are forgetting the same person who can do business beyond 2 million is the same person you have just returned into the challenges we are saying. Try to build an economic base for Kenyans to have this thing we are calling that there is economic growth. Then you come and tell me you have now reduced to the local manufacturers. Who are the deaf keys and the who's and who's? One person monopolizing this country, that he's the only one who can bring clinker, he's the only one who can do cement, he's the only one, yet you want to say, today we cannot bring back Portland, today we cannot do this. It is wrong. We only have one man who does pasta in this country. So when you say now you are increasing because people are exporting in spaghettis, they're importing in spaghettis, we only have one local manufacturer who does pasta, who decides at every given time how he raises his prices. So how do you deal with those people? Tell us the numbers of manufacturers we have.
Order.
So that Kenyans can know,
Order,
Mr.
Elachi.
Speaker.
Yes, Nyakundi, what's your point of order? Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing on point of order number 91. Is it in order for the honorable member to say that the president is dictated by IMF on the finance bill, while the president has the mind of his own? It is this house that dictates the finance bill and the orders that we make.
Stop wasting
Thank you,
my
Mr.
time.
Speaker.
If you had the mind, we would have gone to the president after we have finished this. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are saying that it is time as Kenyans, we want to take back our power from the World Bank, from IMF, and we are begging so hard that the president must go back and look at the East so that we can finish our roads. You went to the US, you told us you are bringing a road that is headed to Mombasa.
Order, Elachi. The World Bank does not vote in this house. It is you who will vote in this house.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Rindikiri.
Understanding order 91, I expect somebody I respect very much to bring in point of relevance. Mr. Speaker, we are not debating the performance and activities of the president. We are discussing the matters of finance bill, and I expect her as such to react. Mr. Speaker, this is where we are losing it, because there are some who are praying for the gallery. We better stop this kind of approach to this finance bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Elachi, the World Bank has no vote in this house. It's you who will vote. So remain relevant.
Mr. Speaker, while I say and what I say is that when you look at all the policies that has eaten the countries of Ghana, countries of Zambia, these are the same policies that they went through when they were handling the IMF. So, Mr. Speaker, it's not about voting, but it is about just asking ourselves, what track have we taken ourselves in? I beg not to support.
Thank you. Come, Kate. Wamau, I don't see you on this screen. Come, Kate.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, from the outset, I want to say that I stand to support the bill. And in supporting this bill, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I fully associate myself with the views and the recommendations of the Committee on Finance and National Planning. The committee, Mr. Speaker, has done a wonderful job in analyzing the bill and in listening to Kenyans. When this bill was published for the first time, Mr. Speaker, I got concerned as every other Kenyan. But I got, Mr. Speaker, I got the confidence, Mr. Speaker, because I know, Mr. Speaker, that Kenya is a working democracy. that the process of legislative, the passing of legislation is a process, Mr. Speaker. That the bill would go to the Committee on Finance and National Planning, that the bill would be subjected to public participation, and that the views of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, would be collected, and that the committee would come up with the proper recommendations, having listened to the people of Kenya. And the committee has done that, Mr. Speaker. This committee, Mr. Speaker, represents Parliament. The Committee on Finance and National Planning is a committee that is made up of members across the aisle. It is not a committee, Mr. Speaker, of members of one side of the House. And their report, therefore, the report which has no dissenting view, represents the views of this Parliament. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the members, all of them, from both sides of the House, that they have done a good job. I want to, Mr. Speaker, the Treasury is made up of Kenyans, and they are mandated, Mr. Speaker, at every financial year to come up with revenue raising measures to support the budget. And they are free, Mr. Speaker, to be innovative. Those officers at the Treasury, Mr. Speaker, are free to come up with wild ideas. But that is why Parliament is here. Because the officers at the Treasury, I do not see why the hysteria. Why there was hysteria? Why would a member of Parliament be joining, Mr. Speaker, members of the public in demonstrating in the streets when his opportunity is here? When the opportunity is here now, and then when they are given the chance, Mr. Speaker, they come and speak about revolutions that are non-existent. This is the time to talk about, to debate this bill, and to look at the recommendations of the committee as they have made. Mr. Speaker, the governments exist to levy taxes, Mr. Speaker. And it is Parliament's responsibility to check on the executive. And that is exactly what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, you know, when the orange button comes up, Mr. Speaker, and the points are coming, I do not know what is, we begin to panic. Mr. Speaker, let me just say this, Mr. Speaker. This morning, I listened to the leader of minority opposing the bill. But I looked at him, Mr. Speaker, and I could see his opposition to the bill was nothing but hollow, dishonest, and shallow. Because, Mr. Speaker, if the public have given their views, Mr. Speaker, and I challenge, Mr. Speaker,
Your time is up. Your order. Member for Malindi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mwanzo ningechukua fursa hii Mheshimiwa Spika kuweza kuwashukuru wa Kenya. Nimeona wenzangu wengi wamesimama hapa na kusema tushukuru wale watu ama ambao wako katika kamati ya mswada wa fedha, lakini mimi nasimama hapa Mheshimiwa Spika kushukuru wa Kenya. Wa Kenya kwa mara ya kwanza tumeweza kuona nguvu yao, tumeweza kuona umoja wao, na tumeweza kuona kwamba tunapoungana na tukisema no kwa jambo, tukikatalia jambo, hilo ndivyo ambavyo linakwenda kupita Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo la kwanza Mheshimiwa Spika ni ushirika wa umma. Mwanzo nimesimama hapa na pinga vikali huu mswada wa fedha ambao umeweza kuwakilishwa hapa mbele yetu Mheshimiwa Spika. Watu wangu wa Malindi Mheshimiwa Spika wamepinga vikali masuala ya kuongezwa ushuru katika mambo ya mkate, katika mambo ya pampers, katika mambo ya sanitary pads. Watu wangu wa Malindi tayari ile hali ya maisha ilivyo ngumu, wanasema kwamba hawataki tena kuona ushuru wa aina yoyote uweze kuongezewa hapa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi Waswahili tuna msemo wa kusema, unapopatiwa chakula kukula, unakula kile chakula paka unasahau unataka pia kula ile sahani. Tulipokuwa tunajadili mswada wetu wa fedha wa mwaka 2023, kulikuwa kuna mambo mengi ambayo sisi tumeyakataa Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini mambo yakapita vile ambavyo yalipita. Na kwangu mimi ninavyoona Mheshimiwa Spika, pia huu mswada kulikuwa kunataka kupitishwa mambo mengi zaidi, lakini safari hii Wakenya walikuwa chonjo na wakaweka miguu yao chini na kukataa ule udhalimu ambao ulikuwa unakwenda kutendeka. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeweza kusisitiza kwa wananchi wetu wa Kenya nzima kwamba tunapokuwa na ushiriki wa umma, ama kwa kizungu ambayo inaitwa public participation, naomba Wakenya wajitokeze kwa wingi, waweze kusikizwa, waweze kueleweka na waweze kutoa maoni yao kuhusu masuala tofauti tofauti ambayo yanaendelea katika bunge la kitaifa, katika masuala ya miradi ya kitaifa, miradi ya kaunti na mengineyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, kabla hatujazungumza kuhusu huu mswada wa ambao tunaujadili saizi, tunataka pia tuangalie ule mswada wetu wa mwaka wa 2023. Ni kwamba uliweza kutusaidia vipi sisi kama Wakenya? Tunafaa tujiulize, gharama ya maisha je, ilikwenda kubadilika? Tunafaa tujiulize, mazingira ya kazi je, yalikuwa ni mazuri kwa watu wetu? Tunafaa tujiulize, imetusaidia vipi na imeweza kutufikisha wapi? Malengo yetu, budget yetu ya ile pesa kama tumeweza kuifikia ama la? Mheshimiwa Spika, tuliona kuna vitu ambavyo tuliweza kupitisha wakati ule, ikiwemo masuala ya Hustler Fund, masuala ya housing levy. Tunataka pia tujue report pesa hizo, mambo hayo, malengo hayo tumeweza kuyafikia ama hatujaweza kuyafikia. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ninavyoelewa Wakenya hawana shida na kulipa ushuru. Uchungu wa Wakenya saizi, tunazungumza kuhusu budget ya zaidi ya trilioni 3. Matumizi ya hizi pesa Mheshimiwa Spika ndiyo matatizo makubwa, na ndio maana tumeona vijana wetu, watoto wadogo wamekwenda barabarani kufanya maandamano. Mheshimiwa Spika, matatizo ambayo tuko nayo sasa hivi Mheshimiwa Spika ni ufisadi. Na pale ambapo tunazungumza kuhusu ufisadi, kwa sababu pesa zote hizi zinatoka kwa Wakenya, bajeti yote hii sasa hizi inatoka kwa Wakenya. Tunapoona ufisadi ambao unaendelea Mheshimiwa Spika, mawaziri wanakuja hapa, mawaziri wao ambao wana ufisadi wanaachiliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii ndio inazidi kutia machungu kwa Wakenya kule. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaona wale ambao wameshikana kule kwa upande wa serikali Mheshimiwa Spika, wanaenda katika mkutano, mtu ambaye mshahara wake ni sawasawa na wangu na anatoa karibu milioni 30, na kuna kijana mwenye ambaye hana kazi na hana hata shilingi. So tunataka matumizi ya hizi pesa pia ziwe ziko sawasawa Mheshimiwa Spika, na kwamba ufisadi uweze kumalizika hapa ndani ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka niseme napinga vikali huu mswada wa fedha wa mwaka 2024. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante sana.
Rindikiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to associate myself with the finance bill presented by the Committee on Finance. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I support this bill because it has addressed some of the issues that I was looking for. But let me say and correct myself that the initial proposed bill, the draft bill, Mr. Speaker, and a lot of issues that are detrimental to our population and to our citizens. Mr. Speaker, that bill, as it was originally presented, will not pass the test of times. But Mr. Speaker, I've listened towards the chairman of the committee as presented, and I associate myself with those proposals that he has presented. Mr. Speaker, we passed the budget in this House. Mr. Speaker, we cannot pretend that we are disassociating ourselves with that budget now that the finance budget has come. Mr. Speaker, the finance addresses the supply part of the expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the budget addresses the expenditure. So these two are intertwined. So unless we go back and reverse the budget that we passed and say we have to suspend it so that we go back to the drawing board. Mr. Speaker, we are legislators and we cannot deceive ourselves that we don't know the truth. Mr. Speaker, the bill has met all the requirements in terms of passage and verification by the members of the public. Mr. Speaker, the public participation has brought in elements that Kenyans have been asking for. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am satisfied that majority of the issues brought up by the members of the public have been taken care of in the proposed amendment by the committee. Mr. Speaker, we are legislators and we are going to bring more amendments. Mr. Speaker, I have noticed, Mr. Speaker, that there is a normality in the finance bill as proposed also, even by the finance committee, that we will be taxing the raw materials. Also, the local manufacturers, Mr. Speaker, will use raw materials. So we will bring an amendment on that. Mr. Speaker, I have also seen there is an introduction of a levy on the treasury bills. Mr. Speaker, we also bring amendment on that. So what I want to tell the people of Bori, because that is who I represent, we will make sure with the consultation with the finance committee, in agreement with them, we will delete those punitive clauses that are detrimental to their expectations and pass the bill because it carries more benefit to our people. Mr. Speaker, this bill has passed all the legal requirements. Mr. Speaker, the income tax law, Mr. Speaker, the VAT law, Mr. Speaker, the excess law, Mr. Speaker, the Miscellaneous and Fees Levy Law, Mr. Speaker, the Tax Procedure Act, Mr. Speaker, the Affordable Housing Levy Act, Data Protection Act, and Public Finance Management Act, and lastly, the Industrial Training Act. So, Mr. Speaker, as we see it, the bill is in compliance with the procedure of making the law. Mr. Speaker, I note that the objective of this bill is not to discourage investment. Mr. Speaker, this bill addresses how we will move the economy in the short term, mid-term, and the long term. Mr. Speaker, we are all talking about employment for our youth. Mr. Speaker, we are all talking about Made in Kenya, Promote Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we are saying we have to take care of our environment. Mr. Speaker, all these things are contained in this bill. What we need to be careful is that we should not trash the good thing with emotions, because that's what I'm seeing, Mr. Speaker. The people of Bore expect development. The people of Bore expect water. The people of Bore expect electricity. The people of Bore expect health. So, Mr. Speaker, truly, and I want to urge and ask our members, please, let's be bipartisan. Let's look at the good things. Let's look at the bad things. We do away with the bad thing, but we cannot in totality say this bill should be rejected in totality. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Jackson Kosgei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, and on the onset, I support the bill. It has been said by historians that there are two things, I beg your pardon, that has made regimes comes up or rise up and fall. One is the policy on fiscal planning of a nation, such as the one we are interrogating through this bill. Mr. Speaker, the second one is the national bride, where the citizens of a country is proud to support and sustain their own country. While I commend the committee for the work, the good job done, the resilience they had in taking the processes through legally and by law, and also by listening to the citizenry of this country, I wish to persuade us in this House to appreciate the fact that we have a cardinal role in developing the budget of this country by interrogating all the processes, and we have a duty to produce a policy that will support this nation. It appears that the debate today, and as we continue, is gravitating around the finance bill as was presented, and we seem to play down the proposed amendment by our esteemed committee members. They have given us their version after receiving the contribution by the public. Mr. Speaker, I wish to conclude my remarks as I support this bill by commenting on the light note on a comment that was made by one honorable member that it was a bit unnecessary and misleading comparison, because we are speaking not only to this August House, but we are speaking to Kenyans listening outside there, to compare the 19th century dictatorial monarchs with our vibrant democracy, which is giving us an opportunity of changing government whenever we want in every 5 years. It is unnecessary to speak to Kenyans that we have an alternative in terms like revolution, destroying a country. I think we have a room, vibrant democracy in the world, not Africa alone. And I wish to urge us that let us debate without personalizing, but think about this country and its progress. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Mawathe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this bill. I stand on the onset to oppose this bill. This bill, actually the amendment that was tabled last evening, is actually worse than what was there previously. The original bill that was tabled aimed to raise 308 billion shillings. The new one that has been that was tabled last night targets to raise 386 billion shillings. I know a few sweet items were removed, like removing the taxes on bread. There were no taxes on bread. We have never had taxes on bread. So when you say you are removing taxes on bread, you are just withdrawing your amendment, or rather your proposed amendment to the bill. There is no favor that we are doing to Kenyans. This bill, as it was previously and it's amended as it is amended now, is very, very punitive to Mwananchi. The new bill introduces the new amendment that was tabled last evening, introduces a fuel levy of 9 shillings per litre. When you increase the cost of fuel, all the items that are transported using motor vehicles, lorries, etc., the cost will go up. So the cost of living to the common Mwananchi will go up. We have increased the taxes on the imported finished items. In most households, majority of the items, from the cookers to the TV and any other items, not necessarily electronics, including this room, majority of the items in this room, other than the wooden items, are all imported. So we will increase the cost of living for the common mwananchi. I've had a few people congratulate the finance committee. I want to congratulate the Gen Z for coming out in large numbers and expressing themselves. What was sad is seeing that they were arrested. They have freedom to assemble. They have freedom of expression. They should be allowed to express themselves, not necessarily be arrested. But to the Gen Zs, the Gen X, and the Millennium, you are yet to register as voters. You need to register as voters so that you can have the correct people that will listen and side with Mwananchi. Anybody who does not side with Mwananchi, you know what to do come 2027. And for the Gen X who actually participated yesterday, and the Millenniums and the Gen Z, the work is not done. The most important work happens tomorrow. Tomorrow is when we are voting as a house. You must put pressure. Continue to put pressure. Do not let off the item on the gas. And you must sit there with a pen and a paper. And anybody who votes to put a noose around your neck, you must write down their name and pick and say, that one, 2027, home. That one, 2027, home. Anybody who votes to finish you here. Anybody who votes to put a noose on your neck tomorrow and finish the Kenyans, you must have a list and pick. That one, 2027, home. That one, because we must have a people, we must have a parliament that supports and stands with the common mwananchi. And I stand to oppose. Asante.
Mary Wamaua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to speak to this finance bill. Mr. Speaker, I don't stand here to be told by an honorable member who is elected like me, because I listen to my people. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to support the finance bill with the proposed amendment from the committee finance. Mr. Speaker, secondly, allow me to appreciate the work that was done by the finance committee, the exercise that they did going around the country during the public participation was not in futility, and therefore, immediately after the public participation, they went to write this report, and from all what they collected from the people who came in the name of those from the corporate professionals, business men, and others, they were able to do so many amendments that we are waiting to hear, and some we are aware, because majority of those are the ones that the members of public had a lot of interest in, like the issue of the VAT on bread. There is that proposed amendment to remove the VAT on it. There is also the excise duty on the vegetable oil. That was also an area of concern. A lot of concern on the issue to do with the 2.5% on motor vehicle tax. Mr. Speaker, I may not be able to mention all the areas of concern, but I cannot forget to also note that there was the proposed amendment from the committee on the eco levy on locally manufactured products like the sanitary towels, the diapers, phones, car batteries, and others. Mr. Speaker, looking at the proposed amendment that the committee came up with, it is trying to answer to the cry of some of the areas that our member are talking about. And Mr. Speaker, some of these are going to boost our local manufacturing industries, which we highly recommend, because with the local manufacturing industry in the country being boosted vis-a-vis or what is coming as import, this will be able to give market to the farm products, because a lot and the backbone of this country is agriculture, as well as also creating employment. And also, this one will also offer our agencies in the inspection and supervision of the produced products. Mr. Speaker, I do not want to say that is from what I got from one of the members that this is too retro, too late. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a house whose work is to make laws and to amend other that are existing. And Mr. Speaker, as honorable members, if at all we are good on advising our people accordingly, as their representative, we are able to tell them that this is the time that we are going to look at the crowds of the finance bill, crowds by crowds, and it is also the said time that we can be able to bring amendment, instead of inciting our people to demonstrate on the street, making some to sleep in the cells and others to get hurt as a result of the same. In the same, it shows that we do not believe on the responsibility that is given to this house to amend any law. Whatever Treasury proposed, it is for the committee, whatever it did, and our time now has come to make sure that any crowds that you think you need to do an amendment, you raise it so that we discuss it here, and by the end of it, whatever finance bill we produce will be answering to the areas of concern to our people. Mr. Speaker, as much as you see some saying that they are opposing, if at all we go by whatever they are saying, they will be the first one again to rise to question on the salaries, on development of projects that are running and other areas. So members, as we talk, let us not be populist.
Wamaua, your time is up. Yes. Mark Nyamita. Order, you are all equal.
No, Mr. Speaker, this guy has just come down.
Go on, Nyamita, give Nyamita the floor.
Mark Nyamita, you've just come down. We have been
Angela, you will speak.
I think in a house of order, Mheshimiwa, the speaker is presiding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this particular bill.
I'm sure, Angela, if it was you, you will be happy. I'll give you a chance.
We have just come now. We have been sitting here.
Order, Angela. I appreciate your resilience today.
Protect me to be listened to in silence.
Oh, that's unfair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill, as was presented on the floor of this House, any reasonable member of Parliament would object to it. Because there is no way, Mr. Speaker, even our colleagues who are on government side would sit here and agree to some of the proposals that are actually in this bill. Let me begin with the sugarcane transporters. When you charge VAT on transport, I come from a sugar belt area, Mr. Speaker. Most of those roads, if not all of them, are maram roads that are not maintained. So when you're saying that they utilize the roads and they're spoiling them, we are sometimes just lucky if the factories themselves actually do it. Mr. Speaker, the taxation on bread in itself, many members, though in this House, do not eat bread, not because they cannot afford. They do not eat bread because they have other alternatives or they've sought other healthy issues, types of food that they want to actually take. But the common man relies on bread as a staple food. So trying to tax it really, Mr. Speaker, is completely out of this space. Taxation on motor vehicle based on value also does not make sense. Mr. Speaker, someone who is driving a Probox and someone driving a V8, like many members on the floor of this House, utilize the same space, they apply the same weight on the road. If you're going to tax them and you tax them, it would have been disproportionate in terms of taxation. So therefore, this was actually not making sense. Tax on vegetable oil, Mr. Speaker, would have increased tremendously the cost of food for the common man. So any reasonable person on the floor of this House, regardless on which side you sit, would definitely then oppose this particular one. The eco levy, though being very progressive, Mr. Speaker, I do not think the way it had been put in this particular bill made a lot of sense. We need to only tax eco levy on finished products that are actually being brought into the country. I am happy that many members agree and will oppose the threshold for VAT registration. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, over the last about 1 month, I have had to bring young people together to try and give them CDF projects. Some of them are registering organizations for the first time. Compelling them to register so that you tax them was not leaving them with any money, because the amount of money that we put into our projects, Mr. Speaker, is extremely very little. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I just want to urge my colleagues that the best thing for us, that it is this House, the 13th Parliament, that must stand to be counted. We have a more enlightened public, and I want to commend the committee because of the extensive public participation. I have seen in their report that they actually had to add a few more days for people to give their views. How I wish, Mr. Speaker, that in the next bill and maybe all the other bills, we can even extend it not only to the members of the committee, but to the whole House, so that members can even caucus on specific bills that require a lot of input from the people. But then what I want to say is that anyone who believes that this bill is not right must then come to the floor of the House, including myself, to propose and support the amendments that are going to leave the bill more responsive to the needs of the people. Instead of just saying that we oppose it, it is in this House, and I am going to be in this House to propose my own amendments that are going to favor the Mwananchi, and the ones that have actually been brought that favor, we will actually support them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
But for now,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise also to support this motion, in spite of the fact that I received so many messages, so many